What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NerdyOver30, the podcast where we talk about movies, games, and everything pop culture. As always, I'm Jonathan, aka Worm. Here with me are the boys, David and T-Bud. What's going on, guys?
What's happening?
What's up, people?
And today we have a really fun guest. His collection is well known within the gaming community. Mort from Mort's Garage. How's it going, Mort?
Hey, good. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Good.
Awesome.
I'm hoping that was a good intro.
That was a perfect intro.
Fantastic. One of your best.
One of your best intros. I'm gonna steal it and put it on my channel.
So Mort, where are you from? Talk to us. Where are you from?
I'm in Southern California, the Los Angeles area, and we've been here most of my life. Went to college down here and everything, and so know this area really well, front and back, and I love it down here.
That's awesome, man. And how did your collecting journey start? Was it as a kid? Was it something when you got older?
Yeah, so a lot of the NES games behind me are my actual childhood games, and at that time I had the same kind of collection that most of us had, which was I had, maybe throughout the entire life cycle of the NES, I probably had about 10 video games that I owned for the console. Most of the sort of big name games, ice hockey, Super Mario, Blades of Steel. Notice I'm naming all the hockey games for some reason. And
Sports.
Hey, go sports, man. And then and then Super Nintendo owned NBA Jam and Street Fighter 2. And then we get up to the next gen, and my dad and I were talking, and I said, I think I want one of these new consoles, an N64 or PS1. And he said, well, it seems like the N64 is the more powerful one because, there's 64 bits. And I said, see, that's in the name. So I should know this. But, how foolish I was. But nonetheless, got an N64 and got Mario 64 and Wave Race, as most of us did when we got it at launch. Loved those games. Wave Race, I in particular played constantly.
Man, that game was ahead of its time.
It was so fun. The wave physics and the graphics. It's hard to explain it, but going from 16-bit Super Nintendo to seeing what looked like real water on your TV screen and your character reacted to that, and then it was just the controls were perfect. It was such a great showcase for the console. I was super stoked on it. And then fast forward some time, and I like gaming. It's fun. I still have all my old games in the closet somewhere in my house. My mom brings home a copy of a random sports game on the system, Nagano Winter Olympics. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, you can own more than like the big games like 1080 and GoldenEye. And, I had a few of the big ones. And then that sort of opened up this door to buying other games for the console. And then I would just keep the boxes. And then that led to me getting, 15 years later, 20, ish, it took me about 15 years to collect every single box for the entire N64 American library, plus a couple of Japanese ones too.
That's crazy.
That is insane. Yeah, I think the first time I came across you was on a Pixel Game Squad episode.
Yeah.
And they were at your house, and I was like, wow, this is one of the most insane collections. I wish, because me and David are crazy completionists, but to have the time and patience to put together that type of collection is crazy.
It is a lot of time and a lot of patience. So I had a few games. I probably had 20 or 30 games in box from back in the day, including Worms Armageddon and some of the harder to find games, because I would read IGN 64, which at that time they weren't IGN, they were IGN 64. It started as N64.com, then IGN64.com, then they became IGN. And I would read all their N64 coverage just voraciously and would constantly, read it and get into it. And then all of a sudden, I'm kind of just moving through life, and I play casual games here and there. Had a GameCube and an original Xbox and a few games. And then I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed one day, and this guy, Aaron, who I happen to be friends with for some reason, pops up, and he's holding an NES cartridge. And I was like, wait, you can be public about the fact that you're into video games? That's weird, because my generation, that was like, instant social shunning. And then all of a sudden I discover YouTube and this whole world. And then from that point on, I really started going hard to try and complete the whole set.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
That's a crazy
Like
feat.
it really, I mean, throughout this, it's really interesting to see people get really into collecting because people will go for full complete sets, but they get so impatient and then they end up spending top dollar on everything right away. And then they're kind of like, why did I do that? And
I've done
this
that.
was what was fun to me. What was fun to me was to be able to just go, I'm going to take my time. And then when it comes together, great. And if I have 2 manuals that I'm missing and I'm content with the fact that I'll never own them, which is Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. It's like a $5,000 manual. And then
Oh,
Transformers Beast Wars, which is probably like a $1,000 manual. Even if I had the trade amount to do it, I still would feel uncomfortable going that far out of my way to pay that much for paper. So, but you know, maybe at a garage sale, if I find it for $5, there you go.
Now, I was gonna ask about Clay Fighters. How'd you even? Because I know you have a boxed one, and then
Yeah.
I know you had one that you sold on one of your episodes.
Yeah.
How'd you even come across getting 2 of them? That game's like ridiculously hard to find.
Oh, great question. So no
before-
one 5 years ago,
before-
I don't think anyone was. What was that?
Before you dive deep into that, can you just
Yeah.
tell our listeners and viewers what Clay Fighter is about? What it,
Yeah.
why is it such a big deal?
Yeah, so Clay Fighter is a Super Nintendo game that would parody pop culture in the way that the characters were designed. And the Clay Fighter 2 is called T2 Judgment Clay. Like it was all tons of puns. Even Clay Fighter on the N64 was 63 and a third, not 64, because that was really funny, I guess. And so they would have there was a one-on-one fighter that was sort of like Street Fighter 2. And then what happened was they released the game on 63 and a third on the N64. I believe it was exclusive. I don't think it came out on PS1. And then when it came out, it did okay, but not great. And so there was an updated version of the game that was made called Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. The Sculptor's Cut version you could only rent at Blockbuster, and I need to find the data to verify this, but only I think like 5,000 or 7,000 were made. Don't quote me on that. Which you could only rent them at Blockbuster. That was the only way to play the game. And so today, if you're trying to get an N64 set and you want a copy of that game, that's the hardest and most expensive one to find outside of Super Bowling.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you come across your copy?
Another collector buddy of mine locally. We have a really in California, there's a very active and thriving retro game collecting community where people are just everywhere with this stuff. Even today, like every weekend, there's a buy, sell, trade event that's attended by a good amount of people. And there's conventions and swap meets and our weather just supports it. It's a place where you can do that. We don't have New York winters, to contend with or summers for that matter. So that a friend of mine he wanted a Wii U. And he said, listen, I've got a copy of Clay Fighter. If you're looking to complete your set, how about we trade if you have a Wii U for sale? And I did. And so I traded him a Wii U console for Clay Fighter. Now, at that time,
wow,
nobody thought that the prices would do what they've done in the last few years, that I got the way better long-term end of that trade than he did. But, he probably got it at a garage sale himself for $5. The label on mine, let me grab it, is cut out. Like you can see it there. And I kind of think that adds like almost a charm to it, to where like I had a really perfect copy, perfect label copy, and I sold that one and kept this one because I like this broken label one more. So
what's the
so the other one
of the broken label? Is there,
What's that?
Do you know if there's a point to the broken label? Like why someone do that?
I don't know. It could have been they were trying to get
okay.
rid of the Blockbuster sticker that was on it.
Because I'm like, that's
go
such
right,
a
or,
strange.
I don't know. Like
place
there's no
to just. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like someone took like a razor blade or something and cut it out for some reason. So but there's a sort of charm to it for me that's like, wow, this is neat, and I'm gonna keep this one. So I know I just said I didn't want to spend a lot of money on paper, but I spent a lot of money on the box and another copy because I wanted the box. And I said I'm gonna sit on the cartridge that's there, because the cartridge that I did sell at the Game Expo was really clean. And I put it up for sale at what I thought was a fair market price for it. And the last day of the expo, someone said, let's do it. And so they bought it from me. We met at a police station, sold it, kept the box, and ended up paying. At the end of the day, I still paid out of pocket for the box, but it wasn't as much as if I just bought the box itself.
And it's safe because you met at a police station.
Oh yeah, definitely for these kinds of items. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
So-
it was also crazy because I remember in the episode he said, "I'll call you," and then usually that means you're never gonna hear from that person again. But he was actually serious, which is crazy.
Well, I'm glad of all the people to not call me, he's one that did call me, and that it worked out. And dude was super nice, super friendly. It was not anything that I asked. There was no point where he was like, I don't know, man, let's meet at my cousin's house at 1 a.m., in the dark alley. It was like, it was like, hey, let's meet I said, I want to meet at the police station, and it's got to be cash, and it's got to be 20s. I don't want like hundreds because, who knows where those hundreds came from.
Yeah.
And so, and he was like, yeah, totally makes sense. Let's meet. And the guy was rad. So I appreciated it.
Awesome. Cool.
And that also goes back to what you said about in California, there's just a big retro gaming community, and seems like everyone's very trustworthy. It's like just a big family.
Yeah.
Almost. I wish we had something like that here in New York. You can't find a retro game here if your life depended on it. And if you do, it's in a game store and it's like extremely overpriced.
Everybody here knows their stuff.
Yeah. You said everybody there knows their stuff?
Yeah, meaning as far as
like sellers. But I mean, I think a lot of people in California know their stuff as well. It's just a little bit more of a community where like, I'll help you, you help me. You even say it in your episodes where you're selling it at a convention. Hey, if it's something that you're looking for your collection, I'll help you out if I can. Yeah.
Actually, the video I'm editing right now is another vendor episode where we had a buy sell trade event, and there's a few things in that video that I gave away that I could have sold, or I was at a recent community yard sale, and I got these N60 or these GameCube manuals, and one of them was worth like $40, and I gave it to a guy for $16. Like just stuff like that. If it's like, hey, cool. I mean, I'm not a charity. I still need to like make some money, from it, but I'm at the same time, I'm not looking to bleed every last dollar dry, because I love when people give me deals, and I'd love to return the favor.
Yeah,
that's how this has worked for me. So yeah.
So whoa, man, I totally forgot what I was going to say for a second. So how did you start doing the vendor stuff? Was that something you were always doing as you were collecting, or just later on down the line?
I have a beautiful and amazing family, including a wonderful and patient wife and triplet daughters. And
wow.
Oh my.
Yeah. My wife and I are actually celebrating 19 years of marriage this year, which is
wow.
rad.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. So imagine your spouse goes to you and says, can I take over the garage because I have a lot of video games, and she was like, yeah, that's fine, that's cool, we're cool with it. So she's been awesome. I say all of that to say that in order for me to justify any of this stuff, it has to be something that pays for itself. And so vending, and I don't think that's unique to video games, by the way. I think every collectible type of hobby, whether it's sports cards or Pokemon or Star Wars or anything, people are going to buy, trade, and resell. It's just a part of it. It's just a matter of how hard you go on it. And so for me, I've always resold. I've always resold on Amazon and Mercari and eBay, but it's not a full-time job for me. It's more just to help pay for itself and maybe put a little bit of extra cash in my pocket. But ultimately that's the thing behind it. So pretty early on, because I knew I wanted to collect a lot for the 64, I felt like I can't justify spending money. So on the collecting videos, like on Retro Rick and on Pixel Game Squad, there's a couple of room tours there of my game collection. And people are like, this guy's so rich. And most collectors I know resell at some level. And if anything, we have no money because we've spent it all on this. But it's turned out to be a great investment, as well.
Awesome.
Well, we definitely know all about that.
Yeah. Do you guys resell as well?
Well, we actually just got approved as sellers on the Whatnot app.
Yes.
So we're going to me and David are putting together our first show for that, because again, like you said, we have tons of stuff and things that we don't need anymore, and to get new things, that's how you got to do it.
That's how you do it. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. It's just it's a little stressful, it's a little time consuming, but it's ultimately a lot of fun. And for anything that's a hobby, if it's not fun anymore, you really have to question, what am I doing with my time in my life?
So,
yeah, we oh, go ahead, David.
Do you collect? So are you just only video games, or is there any other side thing that you collect?
Yeah, just video games. I know myself well enough to know that if I collect for anything else, it would just be a bad situation. So yeah,
Have you ever started collecting something and you had to stop yourself because you're like, holy shit, this is, bad idea?
yeah, I used to collect movies a lot, but then I did what a lot of us do with games, which is I would buy a movie because a review of it was great, and then I would go, why did I buy that? And movies I would watch once, and then that would be it. And there's a social communal aspect of movies, but it's different with games because the interactive element of games makes it more fun. And then movies have, I think, the more interesting history in general because of the way that it's been a part of our culture and informed our culture in a way that video games hasn't. But I also think that with films, there's just something that's just fun to talk about and think about. And I've never played a video game before where I've thought this is making me think existentially about my purpose in life or things. Some games I know can do that, but for me, it hasn't had that effect on me. Games have primarily been fun, entertainment, social, etc. Films, though, engage this part of my brain that wants to talk about philosophy and theology and politics and whatever else, and artistically moves me emotionally in a way that games don't. So for a while, I really enjoyed buying movies, but then I totally stopped doing that, and I stream everything now. And I can't think of any time since streaming began with films where I've been like, oh, I can think of a couple of times where I was like, I want to watch this movie, but I didn't have a physical copy of it. So it's mostly worked out just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was deep, by the way. That was deep.
Thank you. I'm going deep.
Yeah, so these guys collect a lot of steel books and movies, and
yeah,
that's a crazy world if you fall deep into that. So it's probably good you didn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I didn't do what you did and just focus on one thing. So I collect movies, games, and statues, and yeah, it's like chaos at this point. Like me and Worm were just checking out my storage yesterday, actually.
Oh wow.
It just
it was yeah, he definitely has a problem. We found, but we did find all his old Genesis games and Super Nintendo games and stuff.
I love my classics. I never threw out things as a kid or anything.
Yeah.
So that was definitely
great.
a fun little dig, but yeah, he definitely has a problem.
Just like everyone.
So yeah, I wondered about like the movies in the steelbook world. I think really at the end of the day though, as long as you're enjoying yourself and you have a reasonable balance with it, it's really have fun, and I think that's the most important thing about it.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I also think the good thing about the steelbook world of I don't personally do that, but seeing from them is that it is a good investment. Like video games, the prices do tend to go up, so it's kind of like having a bank in your house. If you need money, you can always sell things.
Well, but but here's the collector question we all have to answer. But could you actually sell that thing and get some money? Because
I mean, I guess if like I needed to, like if it was an emergency, then yeah.
See, but then you're saying, do you own your stuff or does your stuff own you? And that's when you get real like, oh, I got to have some regulation in terms of how this works. And that's coming from a guy who has a garage filled with video games. So I'm not being too hypocritical, I hope.
So the question is, would you be
David
able
has
to?
a storage locker of video games.
So I guess the question would be, would you be able to do that if you had to?
100%. I in fact regularly I go through my collection, I look at stuff, and then I go, do I really want to play this? Like referencing the video I'm editing now. I'm a big fan of the game BioShock. I think that game is one of the most well-told stories in gaming. Yep. That environment was so creative. The world building, all of it was so engaging. I just wanted to know what happened next. And I don't like horror very much, but I thought they did suspense and tension and horror in a way that wasn't like just to gross you out, kind of like the way Evil Within is as a game. That game to me was like, I'm out on this one. But BioShock just hit it perfect for me, right on the head. So I bought, when the PS4 did the remaster, there was a big box with the Big Daddy statue. I bought that. I have the PS3 one with the vinyl record, thing. Have you guys seen that collector's edition before?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And
David
then
probably has it.
And then I had BioShock Infinite, the collector's edition for it on 360. but I liked BioShock Infinite, but I didn't love it. And so I was looking at it in my collection going, I don't need to own this. I'm going to let it go. So I sold it at the event and I didn't regret it. And I think, finding things to sell, even if it pinches a little bit, it's just a good habit in general for me personally to be in. It's one of my own kind of self check kind of things.
Like
Yeah,
therapy.
that's like something that I've learned to come to terms with, to have a balance. That's what actually Worm is helping me out with, letting go of some things that I'm just
to let go.
Well, also, especially
I've
if
got
it's-
3 daughters, so now I'm going to start singing "Let It Go" from Frozen, and we'll be here all day, gentlemen.
No,
Oh boy.
well, I told David if it's sitting in bags in a storage for years doing nothing, you obviously can sell it. You don't care that much about it at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
Very true.
yeah, it's a good question. It's a good self-reflection. I think for all of us, no matter what the thing is that you're into, it's just a good self-reflection, I think.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about collectibles, right? So what's a favorite collector's item of yours?
Ooh. I've been asked before, is there anything in my collection that I wouldn't sell? I could answer that question better than I could a favorite
Yeah,
collectible.
that works.
I have a copy of the game Pokemon Puzzle League for the N64 that my brother Matt and I played a bunch when he was a very small kid. I think our age difference is like, I don't know, like 13 years apart or something. And we played multiplayer in that game until our hands were cramped. I mean, it's just such a fun. I love puzzle games. It's one of my favorite genres of video games. So the game cartridge that I have actually has his name written on it, and so that to me is like it's in my heart. The other one is the game Banjo-Kazooie. My copy of it represents a time in my family's life where we went through some really traumatic stuff, where my mom nearly died in an accident. And whenever I see that cartridge, it reminds me and takes me back to those moments. And so those 2 things I think are probably amongst my most prized possessions, in terms of collectibles. Everything else in here, I'm looking around right now, is symbolically, I think, important in the sense of, I have the Ocarina of Time gold cartridge and gold box. That's really symbolically cool because I like The Legend of Zelda. But at the end of the day, if circumstances required, I wouldn't have much of a problem letting that one go.
Yeah.
I think when you think of what attaches me to stuff, the emotional attachment from my history, the nostalgic attachment has a lot more value to me than the financial attachment. Like if something is very high value in my collection, to me, I didn't pick that value. It just happened to take on that value. But I did pick the memories that came with the other stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely
Okay.
like that answer. That's definitely, again, there are a lot of people that would just go for the most exclusive thing in their collection or something.
Yeah. No, it's all cool, but and it might also be because I'm just I'm really grateful to live in an area where, I mean, you guys see it in the videos every weekend we go to a swap meet here. I don't have to do garage sales. Every weekend we go to a swap meet, there is at least something, and it's something that's like it's something good. I'm usually beat by guys like Secret Game Stash, Pixel Game Squad guys, where my buddy Secret Game Stash, he found a copy of Snatcher on Sega CD about a month ago at the swap meet. And same thing, vendor didn't know exactly what it is that they had, and the vendor sold it for a price that they wanted to sell it for, and he walked away with a huge lot of Sega CD games, including Complete in Box, Snatcher. The stuff like that is here because I think with the weather that we have and just the density of population, it's just easy to find this stuff. And so if there's something in the collection that you don't have, just wait, stay patient. It will probably show up at some point.
That's a very good wisdom, but a very hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, because the patience, like the more valuable something is, and the harder it is to find, the more you just want it.
Yes,
So, for real.
totally. Yeah,
That actually speaks out to me because David, the Blade Runner Montalab, I messed up on that one. I never got it. And it keeps evading me, and now it's like $300.
Is that the Blu-ray of Blade Runner that came in the case?
Yeah, so it's like it's a steelbook collection, and then it's like a double lenticular, looks very sexual, and then it's like, and yeah, I messed up. I didn't get it. I didn't act too quick, and yeah, but now it's like $300.
Oh man.
Yay!
I do have one Blu-ray that is highly collectible, or not highly collectible, but highly valuable to me personally. And that is, you remember when Warner Brothers was doing those like oversized Blu-ray special editions for like Gone with the Wind and
Oh yes, right.
yeah. So I have that for the Iron Giant, and that's one that I'll probably never get rid of. That's
that's
one of
awesome.
my favorite movies ever made. I
love that
just
movie.
love that
Yeah.
movie.
That's a
Yeah,
good
that
one.
movie-
Yeah.
So good.
So,
No.
oh, no, go ahead, Dave.
So-
So this happens every episode. We always talk over each other, me and David.
Rock, paper, scissors, says shoot.
Go, David.
All right. So you've been, I mean, your first console was what? What was the
And-
first console you touched?
So I don't know the answer to this question because I remember I really wanted the game Commando because I would play it at the arcade all the time. I think that they made a version of it for the Intellivision. I don't remember. And so my dad brought home an Intellivision with Commando. I plugged it in. I was all excited, and it looked and played nothing like Commando at the arcade. It was really bad. And so then I think a year or so later, my parents got me an NES. That's the first console I remember playing. And then I also had a Game Boy and eventually a Game Gear when I was a child.
So you started from, let's say, NES, fair?
Yeah, sure.
So what do you think about the evolution of gaming throughout the years, like to its current state? Like, do you think, I mean, like, how do you feel about gaming today versus back then?
Well, I'm a dinosaur, meaning that like, I have this idea that I want to pay for the game. I want it to all be on one spot and there's no downloadable content and it's right there physically and it will never go away. And the reality is that back when Excitebike came out on the NES or Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, the development cost for those games was not anywhere close to the size of the team needed to do, Dolby Atmos sound and cinematic directing to have, camera shots in God of War line up a certain way, or get voice actors that, aren't doing blips and bloops, but are actually emoting, and then get orchestras to do your soundtrack. That's got to come from somewhere. And then it's crazy to me that in the N64 days, games were like $59 to $79.99 at retail. And when a game goes from $60 and they go, we're going to need to do $70. And everyone's like, oh, you're ripping us off. I'm like, do you even know what you're getting in that game now? And how, like, when you walk by a TV and you see NBA 2K and you're like, is that a real game or is that a video game? When I walked by a TV at Best Buy when I was in high school, I'd be like, those guys have square faces because they're so polygonal and obviously a video game. So I think today it's insane just the amount of technology and everything that's there. And I don't fault developers for having to not only recoup their cost and the substantial risk that there is in making a big budget game, because that's a lot of money to lose. But at the same time, I don't like feeling like I'm a bank to developers where they can go, can I do, the classic one to make fun of is Horse Armor, right? What was that? Skyrim, where they charge like $6 for horse armor or something at one point. And so I think there's a thoughtful way that you can add value continually to a game that helps to play it, because this is the way it is. I'm not ever going to go back to a time where I buy a game, it's all in one shot and it's done, except for what I think is also really interesting. Same with music and filmmaking, the technology and tools that you need to make really good stuff is so much more user accessible and everyday person accessible and everyday person friendly. Same with game development, it appears. And so I love that now so many more creative people can go and be creative in this space. Whereas before it was really filtered and blocked off by development companies and publishers. And this is what our market wants and all of that. So it's a really interesting time. I think, I also think you're talking to a collector more, I would say, I don't have a lot of time to play games, but I collect a lot of games still.
Right.
So for me, I play a game for a few hours, or I might complete a game like God of War on PS4. And that's good. I'm not going to play multiplayer for 100 hours, and need to keep on staying incentivized. So there's that. As a father, sorry, this is a long answer to your question, but I'm going to keep going.
Love it.
I love
I'm going to keep on going, brother.
Keep
So as a father, I am concerned that the mechanisms that are in games and the addictive elements that come with how games are made today to keep people playing could have really unintended negative consequences in terms of getting kids addicted. I mean, we're seeing this on sort of the data that's coming out about stuff like Facebook and Instagram. I could be misquoting which programs were which, but the way that there's been articles written, and I haven't read them, so please don't at me on any of this. But I just think that just because something is fun to play over and over again, it's harder and harder to really have the discipline to know when to say I need to turn this off and stuff. So in terms of games today, I love that my kids and I can play Mario Party on the Switch and Mario Kart, and that those games are kid friendly. And then I know that Nintendo's online service is really restrictive for certain aspects like communication, but as a parent, I love it because my kids, are much more protected, I think. And yet at the same time, I am concerned with, oh man, are my kids, how are they going to manage, dealing with screens growing up? And so I don't know. I have a multifaceted answer to this question because I have a lot of thoughts about all this stuff.
I love it, man. I'm taking it all in. I appreciate the details, man.
Yeah.
No,
So I don't mind the higher prices. I think it's fine. I mean, if just adjusting for inflation alone, if you paid $60 to $80 for a video game back in 1999, what that cost is now is like $100 to $120, I think. And so, and that was back when minimum wage was like $5 an hour. So I just think you just have to kind of say, you have to realize that you're getting what you pay for, and people should be paid for their work. And a lot of the collector mindset is to get stuff as cheap as possible and as fast as possible. That's not really helpful for, I think, the game developers at large. I think you have to really take into consideration what's there, and they have to adjust, I think, the way that they make games for some of those changes in how we think about playing and consuming games.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with younger people and the screen time. I think it's kind of scary how kids are on their screens all the time. It's also crazy, like gamers that were crazy gamers in the in the time of like the NES and the Super Nintendo. They played a lot, but they also still went outside and played. Now we're getting to a point where people just play games. So totally understand that is very scary to think of. Yeah.
And we're dealing with a pandemic. And so isolation has meant something different for us for the last 3 years or 2 years than it did in even the 5-10 years before that. So I'm glad that we have all of these things to socialize and connect. I think though that it's like learning a new tool. Like you just don't want to oh, what does this screwdriver, or what does this drill do? And then you accidentally put a bunch of holes in your wall. Like you just got to know what the tools are and how to use them in a way that benefits you and doesn't end up putting a bunch of holes in the wall.
Yeah. Now, follow-up question. What did you start your kids with?
Ooh. So Super Mario Brothers is super hard. I think one of the best games, if you have very small children, to get them going on is Mario Kart on the Switch. The reason is there's a handicap mode where you can't fall off the track. It automatically steers you on course. And so the kids get used to all the colors and the weapon mechanics and even steering a little bit. But they're not going to have really bad consequences if they just hold down the gas button. So that was one of the ones that they really enjoyed first. Lately, it's been Mario Party. Mario 3D World was a lot of fun in our house for a long time on the Switch and the Wii U. That has a very forgiving element to it as well, to help players finish it. It's actually brilliantly designed where someone like my kids could play that game and they would be fine. But then also you can have Gerard the Completionist play it and have a whole new layer of difficulty on there. And the game caters to both audiences really well. So those are probably the main ones. I'd say the Switch is the one though that they really started really enjoying playing video games on.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now
T-Bud,
back.
you got any?
Oh,
Huh?
No, I said T-Bud, you got any input? I know you're not a heavy gamer, but you know.
Oh no, I was about to say I do that. I like to play like that on the Mario Kart too, because I don't
Yeah.
like to.
That's an interesting
I don't
choice.
have to call.
Like I was thinking about what you said. I never would have thought, Mario Kart as a good starter game, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, especially you have to think of kids and frustration tolerance. So if a kid keeps on failing at the game over and over and over again, they're either going to get a lot better and keep practicing it, or Nintendo's really smart to say like, hey, you're not going to fail all that much. You might not get first place as much as you want to, but and then that gets the kid to learn rather than, oh, you fell off the track. Oh, you fell off the track. Oh, you fell off the track. So it's a really smart design choice, especially for new gamers and young kids or older gentlemen who like movies more than they do games.
no,
Guilty.
But
I definitely agree. I definitely had some
Yeah.
of my younger nephews who have definitely got very upset when somebody beats them in a game. So yes,
Yeah.
those handicaps do come in handy.
Indeed, they
and
do.
you mentioned Mario Party. Isn't that kind of like a dangerous game to have siblings play against each other in?
Not in our household. I think in other households that might be true, but my kids do. They're phenomenally well behaved and they do a really great job playing with each other. And when they get frustrated as a parent, I get excited to go, okay, like let's do some deep breathing and we're gonna find a solution and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like adults need that too sometimes, but we can't always have that.
Mario Party, by the way, is really freaking awesome. I love that game.
Yeah.
All of them.
People trashed the first Super Mario Party game on the Nintendo Switch. I've tried playing the GameCube, the N64 ones, the Wii one, and I'm like, it's fine. But the Switch one, the first one, I loved it, and critics hated it. And that one and the sequel, I think, are both two of the most fun multiplayer games we've played in our house.
Oh yeah, we definitely played a lot during the pandemic. Me and my fiance played a lot of Mario Kart and a lot of Mario Party.
Hey, when are you getting married, brother?
Oh man, we've been engaged for a couple years now, but because of the pandemic and stuff, so hopefully soon.
Because of the pandemic, I see. Okay. All right.
The pressure's on.
No. Well, we've been together 13 years. We've been living together 5, so it's
well. Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, much success to you. Yeah.
So back to the community aspect. How did it come about that you started to become friends with all these other YouTubers? It's kind of like your collection. I just started seeing you pop up in people's videos and collection and stuff, and I was like, wow, this guy's really well known.
I'm extremely rich and I paid them all. No, the way I showed up in their videos was actually I value well, I was in a band for years called the Devious Means, and we played a lot locally. And at one of the shows, this guy was doing this photo booth, and it turned out to be Riff from Retro Liberty at the time, now Pixel Game Squad. And then we connected. Turns out we went to the same high school, and I met Ricky. And then I kind of then my buddy Jer, who's in one of the Garbage or Gold videos on my channel, we all connected and started hanging out. And then I would meet other people through all of that, and just being a genuine, friendly person can go a long way. That's all I can kind of say is just I think I've just loved getting to meet the people who are a part of this. And guys in particular, as we get older, it gets a lot harder to make friends with other guys.
Oh, for sure.
And so having a hobby like this and being reasonably outgoing, it can be a really great way to make friends and to be a part of a community. And at SoCal Retro Gaming Expo, there were kids as young as mine there up to people that were 10, 15, 20 years older than me, walking around. And so it's interesting how that world just kind of grabs just people from all walks of life. And so I became friends with Retro Rick from all of that. And when he was out here, he did the room tour on his channel. And with Riffo, I was doing a lot of videos with him. And as in particular, we were doing like pickups videos and that kind of a thing. And then he wanted to go more towards just swap meet videos. And so I eventually ended up finding myself kind of taking a break from all of the YouTube stuff. I had just real sort of kind of crisis of time and otherwise. And then all of a sudden ended up with my own channel. So there you go.
So that was going to
Yeah.
be my next question. How that it
Wait,
seems like you've had a great you have a great personality for the camera.
Oh, well, thank you.
Your
I appreciate it.
videos, great personality for the camera.
Well, and may I say, gentlemen, 3 of the most attractive men in retro gaming right here.
Oh, thank you.
For Nerdy Over 30.
Wow.
If you're listening to this audio-wise, you're doing yourself a disservice, ladies and gentlemen.
Why I shaved yesterday? How did you know?
I haven't shaved in 3 weeks. How did you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Listen, I'll take compliments wherever I can get them nowadays. So thank you.
There it is. Nice.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So how did I start YouTube?
Yeah, but it seems like David wants to say something before this
Because
is started.
you can't just casually bring up you were part of a band without talking about the band.
Well, it actually ties really well into the other stuff. So the band I was in, we played a lot locally. We did a lot of really fun stuff. We never did any major touring, but we had a really good following in the Los Angeles and Orange County areas, and just the Southern California area in general. And it was a blast. We had a ton of fun, but I have never been great about wearing earplugs. And band sound wise, we're influenced by stuff, anything that Jack White did. So the Dead Weather,
Very awesome,
White Stripes, and then
Awesome.
Black Keys, and then
The
bands.
Bombast.
I in fact, in Riff's videos, I would purposefully wear a band shirt to just see if I could get anyone to comment on the band and be like, we got the connection about Hot Snakes or Drive Like Jehu or all these other bands. So I don't know, music's always been a big part of it, which I just did a music interview on the channel with a band we used to play with back in the day called The Silent Comedy. That's they got their song on the Dark Souls trailer.
Yes,
And
I was just watching it. Yeah.
it's a long one, but there's a lot of good information in there. So anyway, so it was fun. I sang and played guitar. My friend Rachel, back from college, she sang, played keys, and then we had another guitar player, bass, and drums. And our shows were known for being really lively, really fun, a lot of just goofing around and dancing, but not goofing around like, okay, can you guys play a song? But just we had a lot of energy for the way that we played our songs. And so that was great, but not wearing earplugs hardly ever, being in hardcore bands back in high school and college, not wearing and being the drummer and not wearing earplugs hardly ever. Right, like literally the day I turned 40, I developed tinnitus. And tinnitus is this persistent ear ringing in your ears. If you're watching this and you're around anything loud, please, for your own sake, wear earplugs. So I never did, except for some occasions. And then it just woke up one day, and tinnitus, for those of you who don't know, is like if you're at a concert and you go home and your ears are ringing, that's tinnitus. And that's like might be like a short-term tinnitus. But imagine if that ringing never stops, no matter what, no matter how quiet it is. That's in my ears all the time. So I had kids, triplets, and decided to stop playing music. And then a few years later got tinnitus, but was kind of like, I need something creative. I need an outlet. And I'm the guy that when you come to my house, I'm going to put on YouTube and we're going to watch a bunch of stand-up comedy and skits and things. Or have you seen this scene from, X, Y, and Z movie? Like, I'm a big Wes Anderson fan, so we Arrested Development. And my favorite thing is when people get together and we laugh together. Anything I can do to make that happen, I'm going to do it. And especially when like my kind of humor is like just a lot of wit. I like sort of more of the wit stuff more than I do like the Jim Carrey fall down, big loud stuff. I like that stuff, but that's my sensibility, and that's what I try to communicate a little bit on my channel. But I guess just where was I going with all this? It was very important. Okay, so it came to YouTube, and I'd never edited a video before. I'd never filmed anything before, and so I met with a couple friends of mine who run a production studio, Greta and Robin of Grow Vision. They're in one of the videos. They helped me record my theme song. And she said the best advice to me I've had in this whole journey, which was, I was saying, what kind of camera should I get? What about like a microphone? And she said, whatever gets you making things, use that. So it doesn't matter what camera it is. If you're using DaVinci Resolve, Adobe Premiere, or Final Cut Pro, if it helps you make things and you enjoy it, even if it's not what other people are using, do it. Just go make something, go create something. And so for me, that was like, okay, I'm going to go create something. And Riff was like, Final Cut Pro is free for the first 90 days. You have a Mac, use it. And so I did. And then I started editing videos, and you guys, like, dangerously addictive. I can spend hours and hours and hours shaving off milliseconds to go, the timing of that joke will work better if I do it this way, or like, that reminds me of this movie where this character says this thing or whatever. And I will spend hours just doing all that in every video and putting all of it together. And it's just been creatively one of the most fulfilling things ever. I mean, I'm talking to you guys because of it. So like, I love it, and I love making stuff, and that's what's kind of brought me over to YouTube. And my channel has a lot about game hunting, but there's also a lot of other things on the channel as well that I've done and have planned and have shot. But if I could clone myself, I'm sitting on about 10 videos that I need to edit, and I just don't have time to make them all. So
Oh, don't worry, we get that too.
yeah.
We're sitting on videos and things. Also, I mean, we've said this many times in the past, but that's kind of the same thing. None of us filmed anything before. None of us edited it. We didn't know what microphones to get. But it was always like, we talked about it. You're never gonna do it if you just talk about it. You just gotta go do it. So we got.
Oh, I would see this with music all the time. As we'd go, okay, well, like, what kind of a feeling should we have in this, or what kind of a, how should we promote this show, or what kind of art, or blah 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 blah. And you'd spend hours and hours in band meetings and be like, let's just go play. Like, oh my gosh, like, let's go make something and not talk about making something. And I need to be more deliberative personally, where I sit and think about things a little bit more. But editing videos does great for me being deliberative, because you can't edit a video in 30 seconds. It takes a few hours. Even my shorts that are a minute long take me a couple hours to edit and shoot and put it all together. And so, there's just a lot to all that.
Yeah, and your editing is really good, man. It actually brought a lot of life, like extra life into the video. Like your intro, by the way, amazing. Your intro, I'm like, the theme song.
Well, he does. Well, you do like Wes Anderson, so I can see where your things come. He's very super particular.
Yeah, he's a genius. I love watching what he makes, and I can't wait to see what he makes next.
And what guys, we've been doing this for a little over a year now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we still struggle with is, and you do very well, is you just talk like I feel like I'm sitting and you're having a conversation with me.
Yeah,
like you're making it very, very natural and stuff, and very with a little joke. So I love that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. No, you guys are a lot of fun to talk to.
So actually, watching you has been. I'll always revert back to some of your videos so I can go, all right, this is how I should act, or this is how natural you should look.
A friend of mine said, when you're in front of a camera, there you have to be about 110% or like 130% of yourself. Mm-hmm. Like you have to over exaggerate a little bit, and you have to enunciate a little better and differently. Yep. And if you're not used to being in front of people, that can feel really inauthentic. But I like to think of it as it's just as authentic. It's expressing a different side of the person, but it's just a different way of expressing that side of the person. Because I want to be authentic in everything. I don't make up my finds that I find, or, manufacture the clips or anything like that. It's all pretty genuine, and my opinions are pretty genuine. But at the same time, I just think that there's something to be said about learning how to speak in front of people so that they hear and stay tracking with what you're trying to communicate as well. Like, you have to do something for your audience to feel like they're connecting with you as much as anything else.
Yeah, very true.
Well
and
said, yeah.
Again, we're still figuring it all out, but we'll figure it out.
Right. You guys seem to be figuring it out well. I mean, your videos are a lot of fun to watch, and
thank you.
Watching the one with Gabo right before this, and he's such a great guy, and so are all those guys. They're just great.
Yeah. We don't only interview retro gaming. I mean, we've done everything from hacky sack world champions to comedians to Batman. Batman.
Whoa.
we had
not really Batman. He's a guy who dresses up like Batman and walks around Pennsylvania, but that's a whole nother story.
Dresses up like Batman.
Hey, he's authentic as hell, man. Fun guy.
It's real Batman. Let's be real.
Yeah, what do you mean
Yeah,
dresses up
it is
like Batman?
Not
You
like
watch your mouth,
Christian
sir.
Bale.
You watch your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But I've noticed that the people that I stay in contact with the most is the people from the retro gaming community. Everyone's so nice, so helpful. I mean, even helpful when it comes to, hey, maybe I can help you get another guest, or like I've sat with people on Zoom and they've showed me maybe you should do this with your YouTube channel, or if I had questions about editing. It's such a
Yeah.
I love subcultures. I love the whole idea of subcultures, and the retro gaming subculture is such a fun one and such a tight knit community. Like some of the best people I've met.
Yeah, it's hard to be really angry and upset about your favorite video games from when you were a kid.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just hard to even any rage that's there might just be manufactured, I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn here. I know that there are things that have been really problematic in this community, but at the same time, I really think that it's a lot of fun and has been something that's been a real addition to my life in a really positive way, and for that it's a blessing in the truest sense.
For sure.
Cool.
Now, also the other thing I love about your game room is that it isn't a untouchable game room where you can't touch this. Your game room, and you've said it a lot in videos, is a room where everything is playable.
That's
People
right.
come here and we can hang out and have fun, and everything can be touched and played, and you don't freak out about it.
I think the only things you can't really open are I have a probably about, what is that? I don't know. That's more than maybe about 40 sealed amiibos in here. Other than that, everything is, have at it. Because life is short and games are ultimately to be played. Even the sealed games that I have on the 64 or otherwise, it's because I got them for $20 sealed back when they were released, and I just found a loose cartridge of it. And at this point, it doesn't make sense to open anything sealed. But at the same time, my favorite thing, and the way that this garage is set up, it is set up to have people over, to have tacos and to hang out and to just have a good time and have some good memories. And so you'll have people on the CRT playing a 4-player, game, and then people on the other TV playing some OG Xbox, and people on the big TV playing, the newest Halo or whatever. And hard to argue with an environment like that, where it's just, you feel like you're in an arcade when everyone's in here.
I can't lie. I've been jealous, and I'm like, I want to hang out there when everyone's in there and they're filming and hanging out.
Well, when you're in California, you guys, any of you guys, give me a call. But in the Bronx, I would imagine that garages aren't quite as much a thing.
No, not really. Not at all.
But basements are, right?
Basements, yes. Basements are. We spent a lot of time in David's living room as kids. That's where we spent most of our time.
Great. That's great.
Yeah,
how long have you guys known each other for?
Man, we've known each other since we were little kids.
20 plus.
Right?
That is
awesome.
We all met in I met David and Tolly in middle school. Did you meet Tolly before middle school, David?
No, middle school.
Yeah. So we all met each other in middle school.
How cool.
And there goes my poster.
And we're in our 30s, so that's a long time.
Yeah. I was wondering if NerdyOver30 was a reference to anything other than age, because I was thinking
absolutely
age.
not.
No, yep. Just
We're not that brilliant.
Yeah, we're not that smart. Just like you said, we were just like, all right, we've been talking about this forever. Me and David were at jobs that we didn't like at the time, and we were in the car coming home. We were like, all right, we're gonna do this. Then we called T-Bud because we wanted him a part of it. And when we were in the car ride home, we were just trying to think of names, and I'd said, the name NerdyOver30, and we were like, wow, that sounds really good.
It does. It actually does. In fact, when you reached out to me, or when I saw the other stuff, I was like, isn't that like a huge podcast? It rings perfectly. It is a huge podcast. I mean, let's be real, guys. But yeah, that's what I thought that. Like, I felt like I'd heard it before from someone else. It's a perfect name.
Well, yes, good. It's working.
Yeah.
Ask you a question. What's that red Nintendo, that NES game? I don't know why it's killing me. That red one right there.
The red SNES cartridge.
This one here.
Yeah. Yep.
What
is it?
That is Spider-Man Maximum Carnage.
I knew it.
Oh man, you just
Yeah,
had to put it in there. You just had to put it in that
Here,
spot.
can you see that? Is that clear? Can
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
no, not quite. You gotta nail it over here so we can take a
And you're
look.
gonna put it in the same spot.
Yes, so there
Yeah.
were a
My
few...
room, my garage is meticulously organized. Like, it is alphabetized and just, yeah, that's how it goes.
Well, there is one thing that I do love. I do love organization, and I do see a lot of people's
Sure.
collections where they're kind of all over the place, and it drives
Yeah.
me crazy. So seeing yours is very zen.
Yes.
That is so
Absolutely.
neat.
No, the last thing I want to do is sit in here and go like, I should clean this. And I'm in my most relaxing part of my home, and I want to do chores. Doesn't add up together.
No.
Yeah.
Pat,
Yeah, I
hard
was gonna
pass.
say how is the whole cleaning that like uptake?
I see no
That's gotta
dust
be-
there. I
Yeah.
see no dust.
I don't dust anything. I should. The biggest thing is, you can't do a garage gaming space in many parts of the world because of climate. So the thing I focused on most is the walls are insulated. There's a dehumidifier in here.
Nice.
There's a ductless mini split air unit to keep the place temperature controlled so that the games don't wilt in the heat or freeze in the cool.
Smart.
And so all of those things are just factors and considerations in keeping it as clean as it is as anything else. And then, just vacuum and stuff. My kids and I are in here pretty regularly, playing games and hanging out, but it's not a high traffic area where I always have people over or anything like that, just because of, the older you get and the more life responsibilities you have, the harder it is to get together with friends.
Sure.
Sadly.
So Mark, I gotta ask. So you have all types of games. Were you ever? Excuse me. Anyway, were you
Excuse me,
ever
what?
in the competitive scene?
No, nothing like that.
No.
Yeah, I would compete for who's the worst probably, but I am a casual gamer. I have some skills with a few games like Puzzle Fighter I'm pretty good at. When I get the skills, going, I can be pretty good at team deathmatch on Call of Duty and on Halo. Halo Reach SWAT mode is one of my favorite multiplayer games ever. That single shot kill, if you line it up right, is just one of the most tense, fun multiplayer experiences for me.
Very satisfying.
But fighting wise, I can throw a Hadouken. I can make Blanca electrocute people, but besides that, I just enjoy my favorite genre of game outside of puzzles and the occasional first-person shooter is I love the third-person action adventure games that are narratively driven. So Batman Arkham Asylum, Uncharted, BioShock. I love BioShock's first person. But when games do that, I think like I can get really like God of War on PS4 is one of the best pieces of entertainment ever made across any medium. As far as that game, I think it's just there are frequent moments throughout the game where I'm playing it going, I cannot believe what I'm experiencing right now. And it's just so perfectly orchestrated and designed.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I love a lot of those games too. But one of my big things is I'm a casual gamer too. I like collecting more than I like playing.
Yeah.
But I love those story games because it's like a movie for me. So my big thing is to rush and play to get to the next cutscene because I want to see the story. I'm more into the story of kind of being like a movie than I am playing it sometimes.
Totally.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. The Uncharted games are the biggest offenders there, I think. I think the gameplay gets way too much praise because it's the same enemy skins over and over. And then like he'll get shot like once in a cutscene. He's like, he's gonna die. He gets like shot 80 times in the gameplay, and he's like, I'm good, like so there's but how they tell a story and how they keep leading you on is really good. Particularly the first half of Uncharted 4, I think, is just masterfully done.
Oh yeah, that's
the second half is like, really, pirates were going to bury things in the sand in this island and then send you to India over here and then bring you back over to Pittsburgh and then bring you like, no one did that. No one had enough time to do that. So anyway, but I guess if I bring too much logic to the gameplay experience, I'm missing the point of the gameplay experience.
Come on, man. It's a pretend game.
Yeah, that's right. I know. So sometimes I have to be reminded of that.
So being someone who's collected for so long, how do you feel about the crazy jump in value games have taken in the last 5 years. I mean, it's quite insane. To me, games were always something you opened, and I never thought they were going to become valuable. If I would have known what I know now, I wouldn't have sold all my boxed N64 games and stuff like that. But
None
it's
of us,
crazy.
yeah, none of us would have. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm as interested in the why as opposed to the now. And so, yes, I don't like how expensive games are, and I think that you have to take into account that the games cost more now, and so everything seems impossible as a barrier of entry. However, it used to be that you would buy a game for $3 to $5 and you were excited, and no one likes it when that's taken away. But those games would sell at the top amount at like $20, or $15 or whatever. Now that if a game's buy-in is $10 or $20, but the sell rate is higher, I feel like in some ways the game prices certainly have gone way up, of course. But the I don't know. It's hard to. I'm having a hard time articulating what I'm trying to say. It seems like there's a higher cost of entry, but there's a higher cost of reward as well, if that makes sense. So I don't like it, but also it's not unique to video games. This is the thing. This is not just about video games being more expensive. Everything on this planet is more expensive, and not just from inflation. Collectibles during the pandemic all skyrocketed. I mean, you just talked about a minute ago a Blu-ray set that's going for $300. Did movies do that before the pandemic? I didn't ever hear of anything like that, and they may have. Don't get me wrong. I know vinyl records have always had a value proposition like that as well, but
that's even jumped up a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I know. Everything has, and I wonder if it's generational, that like we collected physical media back then and now it's cool, and so there's more value. Older stuff has an inherently limited amount of supply, and so but now we're all going back to it, maybe in bigger numbers, and so there's that. And then you have, I think probably the thing I like about it least is people who are here only for the value and not for any other reason, because that's exploitive. I think they're taking something and then they're going, ooh, I can make money too. And so they might go, I already have a lot of money. Let me pour a bunch of money into this, but then I'm going to sell it for even more money when demand goes up. That's the stuff that I think is like, oh, that's ruining the hobby. But I can't help it if a game goes up, or if I sell a game at market price and someone's like, you're a terrible, dirty reseller. And I'm like, this is just what the market is. And I don't know what to tell you, but, and again, none of us are charities either. So, so I don't know, but I think that, the upside of it is that maybe people take it more seriously, if that even matters. If you like it, you like it. That's all that really matters. The downside though, is that, there's just, it's making like, no, I can't think of any fathomable reason why a sealed copy of a Nintendo 64 game should sell anything more than $1,000 at its absolute highest. I mean, $1 million for Mario 64 is absurd, but at the same time, I have a feeling one day it's going to sell more just because it sold once for $1 million, and people go, I want the one that sold for $1 million before, and that will have more value to it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't like the money part of it. I don't like how prohibitive it is. And yet at the same time, if you want to play these games, there's a lot of ways to play these games. And I'm not advocating anything illegal. I want to cross that T and dot that I, but there's also more accessibility. If you just want to play the games, you can do that. There's ways to do that. And even all of the modern collections, like the Capcom fighting collection that just came out for the Switch, that's got Pocket Fighter, Puzzle Fighter, all the Darkstalkers games, everything on that. If I bought all of those games individually, I'd be out hundreds of dollars. Or I can buy it for $30 in a prepackaged game on my modern console in HD. That's a heck of a lot of value. So there's a lot. There's, not every, I think the reactivity is like, well, hang on a second. Like, why is this? What has made these prices gone up? Is it just because of the pandemic and just because of lockdown? Is it just because of these people who just see value and they want to get as much as they can? Those people will exist in every corner of the world. And I don't know. I don't like it, but it's kind of.
I never thought I'd see the day where there was a graded video game.
No.
That's crazy.
You know what I don't understand about it is, they're graded video game boxes. They're not graded video games, because inside of that box is a manual and an insert and a cardboard sleeve tray and the game. I don't understand why people like it's not more valuable to open it up, display all of the individual pieces, and then grade that as your graded game, because that is the fully preserved item. A sealed game, you're grading plastic and cardboard on the game itself. But I guess you could argue the same with comic books. I can't go through every individual page of a graded comic book.
Yeah.
Graded cards makes the most amount of sense to me because I can see the whole thing. But I don't want to say I'd never do it, but because I probably will grade a few of my games just because why not? But at the same time, I'm not here to find things to grade.
Sure. Yep.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I would do it too if I had something that I thought was cool enough.
I'm just waiting for them to grade a console. That's what I'm waiting for.
Okay, I've seen those people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. VGA has graded consoles before. There's a couple guys on YouTube that have them displayed, and it's a little bit wild to see consoles graded, and you know.
Yeah. Because in my eyes, I never thought games. Being a collector my whole life too, and collecting action figures and this, video games was the one thing I never thought would be crazy value, because in my head it was just something you always played and the technology was always growing. So who's gonna go back and spend a lot of money on these old games?
Yeah.
But then all the nostalgia stuff happened, and now it's I mean, even me, I've found myself buying all the old games that I've lost and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're fun. They bring back all of those memories, and it's really cool to be able to do it. I'm not the market that would ever pay for a graded game. No matter how meaningful that game is to me personally, I just don't think I'd ever do that. Excuse me. But that all being said, I think sometimes we maybe forget that like this we're here temporarily, and this stuff behind me, we're all in a state of deterioration. Like at some point, I'm not sure what it is we're preserving, but at the same time, I also respect it and understand the other side of that argument too. And
these are the conflicts of being a collector, people. So it's about that time.
I feel like I've said like stuff on both sides to where I'm going to sound like a giant confused hypocritical mess, and I hope that I didn't come across too much.
No.
Grading games is kind of dumb, but I do it. I
think it's great because it's true that we're at a time where you can't make a lot of sense of these things. It's just either you love it or you don't.
Yeah.
So we're at the time where David asks his favorite question of the night.
David.
So what advice would you give someone getting into the collecting world of gaming?
Or YouTube.
I'll answer both of those. Can I answer both?
You can answer both. We love it.
All right. I'm a talkative guy, so
we love it.
All right, do it.
If you're getting into gaming and you're collecting, let's say, are you collecting retro gaming?
Yeah.
The first thing that I would tell you is set a goal, and number 2, be patient. If you are hoping to get something really fast, this is going to be very frustrating, and you're going to go into debt really quickly. But if you can be patient, there's so much to enjoy along the way. And what you're going to enjoy is meeting other collectors. You're going to enjoy learning new things about the hobby because you did a little more research. You're going to enjoy the surprise of finding something at a garage sale because you asked if they had any video games in the house still. You're going to I found this giant JRPG lot, and I paid $100 for it back probably 5-6 years ago. And that lot had in it Suikoden 2, Xenogears, all the Shadow Hearts games. The total value of that lot was obscene. And the guy was like, $100, just take them. And I was like, okay. But if I would have spent money on all of those games, it just would have not worked out. So be patient and have a goal. You'll reach one end of the spectrum of the game collecting world and go, I wonder about Neo Geo. And then you'll go, well, I wonder about TurboGrafx. Well, I wonder about Nintendo. Well, I wonder about 64. Well, I wonder about PSP. Well, I'm really into handhelds now. Like, set a goal. Like, I think it'll help keep you organized, because every time you go look, there will always be something, at least here anyways. I don't know about other regions, but I think just being patient and setting a goal is big. For YouTube, I think that there's a lot of things that I've learned so far, but one is if you're trying to do YouTube to be quote unquote YouTube famous or any of that, this is going to be really tough. I think people are drawn to what is real or perceived authenticity. And so if you are just being yourself, if you are being real, start there and enjoy the creative space that is YouTube. The second thing I'd say about YouTube, though, is also do some homework. Look at the top, like for you guys, if you were like, hey, give us some consultation, I would say, well, look at the top 3 podcasting entertainment spaces on YouTube and look at their top performing videos. And what is it about those videos that's performing well? It's not just because a celebrity was on Joe Rogan, because that same celebrity could go on another podcast and get 1,000 views, whereas on Joe Rogan's podcast, it might have 10 million views. So it's about something else. And so watch these guys that are talking about the algorithm. And also the algorithm's going to change and it's frustrating. And I don't like it as much as anybody else. I'm new, so I don't have anything to complain about, but adapt. Like you have to adapt and you have to try something different. If like you guys are doing long form podcasts, but experiment with short form or like putting out short clips of stuff that are like kind of clickbaity headlines. And maybe that will draw people to your longer form stuff. So I think if you're just discouraged because I've been doing this for a year and I'm not getting any views, well, then maybe you're not doing, this is something I'd say for myself is maybe I could be doing something a lot better. And I need to ask people to look at my stuff and say, hey, what do you think? Like, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. And I've had people say really great things to me so far. Like initially early on, I was told you talk way too much and you show way too little. And so I was like, okay. And then the amount of clips can sometimes drag down the pacing. So I've tried to do less clips. And then I've been told, the things that people like about my channel. Hey, like you actually come across, pretty humorous. So don't be afraid to take those risks and stuff. And so there's just things like get the feedback that you can and see what's there. And the other thing I would say for anyone new to YouTube, do shorts often. I treat shorts like genuinely, I try to say something interesting in my shorts, but they're turning out to be a great commercial for my channel. I put out a short a month ago about the exclusive games at Blockbuster Video for rent. Initially, it got like 1,000 views. It was great. I was really happy with that. I'm grateful if it gets 10 views. I mean, I just enjoy making this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I look at my phone like a few weeks later, and it's like, this video has 10,000 views. I'm like, what just happened? I checked it earlier today and it's over 100,000 views. Wow. And it's just talking about the rented games at Blockbuster. And the other one that got that was talking about, there's an unlicensed N64 game called 40 Winks that was released by Pico Interactive. And I think it's interesting because it was supposed to come out when the N64 came out, but it ended up getting an unlicensed release later, and the people actually went and finished the development and released it. I did a 1 minute long video of that. It has over 100,000 views. It didn't get that overnight, but you just don't know what's going to be out there. And so I would say use the shorts to your advantage and take your favorite clips from like your stand-up comedian guy or Batman and be like, hey, to see more cool stuff like this, check out our podcast below. Like, I think that kind of stuff, it's editing what you currently have to your advantage, especially if you're doing really fun, cool stuff, which you guys obviously seem to be doing.
Yeah.
No, definitely. We were actually been talking about doing the shorts, so definitely we will be taking your advice on that.
Good. Yeah. And it's cool. I mean, if people watch a short and then they whatever the subject may be, and then they come to your channel and find your other stuff, then how awesome. You get more people that get to enjoy the stuff that you're spending hours and hours editing and making.
Well, this was awesome. I can mark this off my bucket list of YouTubers and people that I wanted to interview.
Thank you. It was awesome. It was my first interview ever.
Oh, it is awesome. We get to be your first podcast. Awesome.
My first mortarview.
Well, you killed it.
Yeah, man.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, you killed it.
You're welcome.
So I will have the links to all Mort's social media and his YouTube below. So please go follow Mort if you liked anything that we were talking about here. Also, hey, follow us. That'd be awesome too.
Yes.
And
Give a
yeah.
share or two.
Subscribe.
And subscribe. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching. And as always, may the force be with you.
Take
Okay.
care.